They fired me after 33 years, replaced me with a machine, and laughed behind my back like I didn't matter. What they didn't know was I remembered everything. Every lie, every cover-up, every woman they erased. And while they celebrated my silence, I was already planning the storm. Before I begin, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. I need to know someone's out there. Someone who still believes an old woman's words can shake the world. I started at Halverson Systems in 1990. Back then we had floppy disks, a coffee pot older than me, and a CEO who still shook your hand like he meant it. I was 33 years old, newly divorced, and desperate to prove I could make a life for myself and my daughter without begging anyone for scraps. That office became my second home. I stayed late when no one asked me to. I taught myself every new system they rolled out. I trained interns who eventually became directors, watching them climb ladders I built with my own hands. And not once did I ask for more than what I earned. People would say, "Dolores, you always know what's going on." And I did. I knew who was sleeping with whom. I knew who padded their travel reimbursements. I knew who cried in the break room and who snuck liquor into their desk drawer. I was the wallflower they didn't bother hiding from because they thought I was harmless. Maybe I was until the day they threw me out like yesterday's lunch order. It happened on a Monday. I came in early like I always did, wearing my navy cardigan and my sensible shoes, holding a tray of banana muffins I had baked for the front desk staff. The elevator had barely opened before I noticed it. My desk was gone. Not cleared, not cleaned, gone. In its place was a sleek white kiosk with a glowing interface and a large sign that read, "Claire, Corporate Learning AI Response Engine." I thought it was a joke at first. Maybe they were renovating or someone forgot to move my things back. I walked around the floor, but my photos, my plant, my pencil holder, everything was gone. Vanished like I had never existed at all. I went straight to Brent Halverson's office. He was the new CEO. All teeth and tech speak, the kind of man who could fire a whole department and still be on time for a podcast interview about innovation. He didn't even look surprised when I walked in. "Miss Mayfield," he said with a thin smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I figured you'd stop by. Where's my desk?" I asked. My voice was calm. I didn't need to shout to be heard. "We've made a strategic pivot," he said. "We're moving toward automation. AI can handle customer support, scheduling, data entry. And dignity?" I cut in. He blinked, then gave me that look people give their grandmother when she forgets what year it is. "You've been a pillar here, truly. But the future doesn't wait for sentiment." "Am I being fired?" "We're sunsetting your role," he said. "But we're happy to offer a thank you bonus for your years of loyalty." Loyalty. That's what he called it. 33 years of loyalty. Not a write-up. Not a single complaint on my record. I ran that front office like a ship. I caught errors in invoices that saved them hundreds of thousands. And now a talking computer named Claire had my job. Who made the decision? I asked. "Monica and I," he said. The executive team agreed. Monica Traz, the real snake behind the curtain. Always polite, always smiling. Always ready to throw someone else under the bus as long as it made her look smarter. She once told a group of interns that old employees are like wallpaper. Familiar but easily replaced. I remember because I was standing right behind her. Brent leaned back in his chair like he'd just done something noble. "You'll be fine, Miss Mayfield. People like you always find something." People like me. I didn't need to ask what he meant. I was a 66-year-old black woman in a tech company that hadn't hired someone over 50 in 10 years. They didn't think I could code. Didn't think I'd fight. And they sure didn't think I'd remember. I packed my things in silence. My photos, my coffee mug, the worn-out notebook I kept in my drawer. What Brent and Monica didn't know was that inside that notebook was my true resume, notes, names, dates, things that were said in passing, things that were whispered in hallways, things I was never supposed to hear. I walked out of that building without shedding a single tear. But the thing about people who've spent their lives being underestimated, we don't break, we bend. And when we snap back, we cut deep. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and opened that notebook. On page 1 I had written, 1991. Jasmine from admin came in crying. Said Mr. Leland touched her. Tried to investigate. Then she was gone. A week later I flipped to another page. 1998. Monica bragged in elevator about filtering out the old guard. Said they were dead weight and bad optics for a tech brand. Another, 2016. Brent was drunk at the company retreat. Cornered that new designer in the hallway. She filed a report. He settled. She disappeared. My hands didn't shake. My eyes didn't blur. I didn't cry. I just kept turning pages because I knew what I had wasn't a journal. It was evidence. And if they thought firing me was the end of the story, they clearly hadn't read the first chapter. If you think they underestimated the wrong woman, drop a heart in the comments. I need to know you're still with me. It took me 2 full days to read through that notebook from front to back. I didn't realize just how much I had documented over the years. Some entries were just fragments. Someone crying in a stairwell, a whispered slur at a holiday party, a young intern who never came back after speaking up about something her manager did. I had always thought it was just my way of coping. Keeping notes gave me a sense of order, like I was still in control of something. But now I saw it for what it really was, a record, a ledger of what this company was built on. I made a pot of chicory coffee and took a deep breath before dialing Harriet Boone. She had been head of HR for 12 years before Monica bullied her into early retirement. She wasn't just my closest friend. She was the one person I trusted to remember everything the way I did. "Dolores," she said when she picked up. "Lord, it's been a minute. You all right?" "They fired me," I said. Silence. Then, "What?" "They said I've been replaced by an AI interface named Claire." She made a sound like she'd swallowed a curse. "Brent and Monica," she sighed. "Of course. That woman's been scheming to erase anyone with a conscience since she got the corner office." "I need to talk to you," I said. "And not over the phone." I showed up at her house the next morning with my notebook, a fresh lemon pound cake, and a bottle of sweet red wine. Harriet lived in a little brick bungalow on the east side where the neighbors still waved and nobody rushed through conversations. We sat at her kitchen table just like we used to back when our daughters were young and our backs didn't ache. I told her everything about Claire, about how Brent smiled when he let me go, about how Monica had the nerve to say nothing at all. Then I opened my notebook and let her read. She took her time, flipping slowly, her jaw tightening with each page. When she got to the entry about the Latina intern Lucia, she stopped cold. "I remember her," Harriet said. "She came to me crying," said her manager asked her to stay late, and then tried to put his hands on her. I filed a report. Then Monica took over. Next thing I knew, Lucia was gone. I nodded. "That's why I called you. You and I remember what they're hoping people forgot." Harriet stood, walked into her bedroom, and came back with a locked metal file box. She opened it and laid out 3 folders, thick and heavy. Before they pushed me out, I backed up every complaint Monica tried to delete. I knew one day it would come to this. Inside were formal grievances, most of them from women of color. Every one of them either silenced or settled. In some cases, the names had been erased from the system entirely. One folder had a sticky note on the front. "Elevator assault case." "I wasn't allowed to follow up," Harriet said. "Monica handled the settlement personally, but I kept a copy just in case." I opened it. The woman's name was Ana Reyes. She had been a junior graphic designer. She claimed Brent cornered her in the elevator after the 2016 retreat and groped her. The security footage conveniently went missing. The legal team paid her $250,000 to sign an NDA. She quit, deleted her social media, and disappeared. "This man is still running the company," I whispered. Harriet nodded. "And using an AI chatbot to auto-delete any new complaints. You think that thing doesn't know how to filter race-based keywords?" The rage that burned in my chest wasn't hot. It was cold, focused, controlled. "I need someone who understands the tech side," I said. "Someone we can trust." Harriet tapped the table. "Jamal from IT. He still works there. Quiet, smart. You mentored him back in the day. Remember?" Of course I remembered. Jamal Carter. Always stayed late. Helped fix my email when the system changed. I used to slip him homemade cookies when his head was buried in a laptop. A good young man. I called him from Harriet's landline just in case. When he heard my voice, he said, "Miss Mayfield, they said you retired." "I didn't retire. I got replaced by a robot." He paused. "I'm sorry. That's not right." "I know it's not right," I said. And I think you do too. He agreed to meet us at a diner off Old National. It was quiet, full of retirees and gospel music playing softly in the background. When we showed him the files, his eyes widened. I knew something was off, he said. Since Claire was installed, I haven't seen a single harassment complaint. It's like they disappear before they even reach the HR system. Because they do, Harriet said. We have paper copies proving it. He took a shaky breath. Miss Mayfield, I found something last week. A debug log. It's hidden in the back end, but it tracks every deleted submission. There's dozens, some from current employees, some with evidence, screenshots, audio. You can get them? I asked. I can't download them without setting off flags, he said. But I can mirror the log and forward it to an external drive. I smiled for the first time all week. Then let's do it. He hesitated. If they find out. They won't, I said. Because I've spent 33 years learning how to stay invisible. That night, I typed a name into my browser I hadn't typed in years. Raina Dubose. Award-winning investigative journalist known for taking down powerful men with clean suits and filthy closets. I drafted the message 3 times before hitting send. Subject: AI system being used to erase harassment complaints at Halverson Systems. Body: my name is Dolores Mayfield. I worked at the company for 33 years. I have evidence of a cover-up involving racial discrimination, sexual harassment, and data manipulation. I'm ready to talk. 15 minutes later, she replied. 2 words, prove it. I smiled. I intended to. They didn't recognize me when I came back. Not Monica, not Brent, not even the ones I trained. I wore a curly gray wig, oversized glasses, and an old janitorial uniform I borrowed from Harriet's cousin who worked cleaning commercial offices. I walked with a limp and pushed a mop bucket like I had a bad hip. Nobody looked at me twice in that building. If you weren't in a blazer or heels, you didn't exist. That's how I knew they never saw me to begin with. I had Harriet call in a favor to get me on the nighttime cleaning crew. Halverson Systems outsourced to a third-party company. Cheap labor, no background checks, no ID badges. Perfect cover. On my first shift back, I walked into the main floor I had once run like a ship and felt my stomach twist. My nameplate used to sit at the front desk. My notes, my pins, my files, all gone now. In their place, the screen of Claire blinks silently, a soulless interface, polite and professional, and completely complicit in silencing people like me. Monica walked past, heels clicking, laughing loudly with a junior manager about the dead weight we finally dumped. I froze by the janitor's closet and listened. We should have done it sooner, she said. The old-timer slowed everything down. Now Claire handles it in half the time. And no more HR messes, the man chuckled. I swear if I had to sit through one more complaint about uncomfortable eye contact, I was going to lose it. Monica smirked. Let the algorithm deal with their feelings. I pressed record on the burner phone in my pocket. Later that night, I cleaned the executive conference room. Brent was there, drunk, red-faced, bragging to 2 investors on a Zoom call about how cost-effective Claire had been. Then he said something I'll never forget. We didn't just streamline, we sanitized. All that HR drama gone. Claire doesn't care if someone feels uncomfortable. She's a machine. She's perfect. I moved to wipe the glass table just as he slurred. Dolores Mayfield. Now there's a dinosaur. I don't miss that sad cardigan one bit. I gripped the rag tighter and turned my back to him, recording the whole thing. That was the 3rd time that night I heard my name like a joke. Like an afterthought. Like 33 years meant nothing more than a smirk and a tech upgrade. The next day, I met Jamal in the parking lot. He looked nervous, eyes darting, lips tight. You all right, baby? I asked. He shook his head. I got the logs. Every deleted complaint. Audio, text, screenshots. There's stuff in there, Miss Mayfield. Stuff you wouldn't believe. Try me. He pulled out a flash drive. One of the deleted files was from 2 months ago. A new hire named Tasha. She said her manager followed her into the bathroom during lunch. She submitted audio. He told her if she wanted to keep her job, she had to relax a little. The system flagged it as a threat, but Claire deleted it before it even hit HR. Where is she now? She quit. Sent a group email saying she didn't feel safe. Monica called her unstable. I clenched my teeth. She's not unstable. She's just not quiet. Jamal nodded. There's more. One log shows Brent's calendar entries. He was meeting women late at night. One of them tried to cancel. He marked her as non-compliant. I closed my eyes for a second. The anger inside me wasn't hot. It was sharp, controlled, poised. Does Raina have this yet? I asked. Not yet. I was waiting on your word. Send it, I said. Tonight. That evening I met Raina in person for the first time. She had a sharp jawline, a silk headscarf, and a stare that cut straight through you. We sat in a quiet booth at a soul food spot on the west side. I brought a folder. She brought a recorder. I'm not just looking for a quote, she said. If we run this, we burn the house down. Good, I said. Because I'm not handing you sparks. I'm handing you gasoline. I showed her my notebook, Harriet's files, Jamal's logs, audio of Monica mocking harassment survivors, Brent laughing about scrubbing the culture. The entire digital trail of deleted pain. She sat in silence for a long time, flipping through the evidence. Then she said, I've covered senators, Fortune 500s, but this is rot in plain sight. What do you need from me? I need your permission to use your name and one photo. I slid a printed headshot across the table. I hadn't smiled in it. I didn't need to. My name is Dolores Mayfield, I said. I worked at Halverson Systems for 33 years. They fired me without warning, replaced me with an algorithm, and erased the women who came to me for help. You tell them I'm not gone. I'm just getting started. She clicked off the recorder and extended her hand. Miss Mayfield, she said, let's set the match. By the time I got home that night, Raina had already drafted the headline, deleted. How a corporate AI system was used to silence harassment complaints and protect a CEO's crimes. I read it twice. Then I went to bed and slept better than I had in years because they thought I was gone. They thought I was irrelevant. But I still had the one thing they could never automate, a voice. And I was finally ready to use it. The story broke on a Sunday night. By Monday morning, the whole city knew my name. It started as a ripple. A few retweets, a handful of shares, but by 8 a.m. it was a tidal wave. Raina's headline was on every timeline, every feed, every group chat that Black women ever created to survive corporate America. Deleted. How a corporate AI system was used to silence harassment complaints and protect a CEO's crimes. I sat on my porch swing in my robe with a warm cup of ginger tea and watched the neighborhood come alive with noise. Miss Florence from down the street walked over holding her iPad like it was holy scripture. Dolores, she said breathlessly. Is this you? I just nodded. She covered her mouth. Baby, you lit the match and burned the whole house down. Brick by rotten brick, I said. Raina's article laid everything out. The AI system trained to detect and delete HR complaints with specific keywords. How the complaints from women of color disappeared the fastest. How Claire flagged their language as emotional disruption and auto-archived them to avoid clutter. She published screenshots from Jamal's mirrored logs, emails about harassment, transcripts of audio files, even internal messages from Monica bragging that the old guard is finally out of our way. And then came the recordings. Brent's voice laughing in a boardroom. Dolores Mayfield. Sweet like a church auntie. Always smiling, always soft, but this is a fast game now. No room for muffins and menopause. They put that quote in bold. I didn't need to cry. The internet cried for me. By 9 a.m. hashtags started trending. Hashtag justice for Dolores. Hashtag you can't delete us. Hashtag Halverson exposed. Hashtag Brent knew. Jamal texted me an update from inside the building. Brent locked himself in his office. Monica's working remotely. Everyone's pretending not to panic. By 10:30, Raina dropped a second article. Voiceless by design. The algorithm that buried Black women. This one hit like thunder. She released the transcript of Tasha's deleted audio, the intern who tried to report her supervisor, her voice trembling but clear. He waited until I went to the bathroom. He said I needed to be nicer if I wanted to stay. I recorded it. I filed it. Next thing I knew, my access badge didn't work. I never even got a follow-up. And just like that, the internet turned righteous. Women started coming out of the woodwork. Former Halverson employees, contractors, interns. Raina began receiving dozens of messages from people with similar stories, patterns, trauma, silence. She cross-referenced dates and found over 20 cases where a complaint was submitted, but no HR record ever existed. Then came the sponsors. One by one, Halverson's biggest clients and backers began releasing public statements. We are deeply disturbed by the revelations. All contracts are suspended until further notice. We stand with women, especially those who were silenced. By lunchtime, Brent was no longer just a CEO with a PR problem. He was a liability. At 12:17 p.m., the Halverson board issued a statement. An external investigation will be conducted. CEO Brent Halverson has been placed on administrative leave effective immediately. Translation: he got dragged. But it wasn't just his job falling apart. That same afternoon, Raina received a phone call from Brent's wife. She reached out to me. Raina told me over the phone. Said she had no idea about the settlement money. Said she recognized the name Honor Reyes. My breath caught. Honor Reyes was the young designer Brent had assaulted in the elevator in 2016. The one who vanished after the NDA. She said she saw Brent wiring funds right after the retreat, Raina said. He told her it was a software licensing issue. Now she knows the truth. What did she say? She said, and I quote, "If he used our marriage to cover up crimes, I will take everything." And she meant it. By the end of the day, the divorce was filed. She publicly revoked her shares in the company and handed her attorney over to the DOJ. Raina dropped a third story before the day ended. Deleted and divorced. Wife of CEO breaks silence on AI abuse and cover-up. It included documents proving Brent had used company funds to pay off multiple harassment settlements. His wife claimed she was duped into complicity and vowed to cooperate fully with authorities. That was the final crack in the dam. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission issued a formal letter of investigation. Then the Department of Labor. Then the DOJ. Jamal texted me a photo of Brent leaving the office with a cardboard box. Caption: he packed the AI tablet too. Guess he needed someone to talk to. I laughed out loud. Harriet called me later that evening. You watching Channel 7? I turned it on. The anchor was reading quotes from Raina's reports. They were showing a side-by-side of Brent's public apology and the growing number of women coming forward. One woman crying on camera said, "Dolores stood up for us. She did what the system was designed to prevent." She remembered. My chest swelled not with pride but with relief. For years I'd felt like a whisper in a storm. Now the storm was mine. And Monica? She didn't come in to work the next day. Word was she flew to Miami on sabbatical. Someone leaked an internal email where she told Brent, "Let the old woman have her moment. It'll blow over." It didn't. By the end of the week, Raina's fourth article had gone viral. The Blueprint. How one woman's notes took down an empire. That's when people really started talking. I got interview requests from major networks, offers to write a book. HBCUs invited me to speak at their next commencement. I said no to all of it. I didn't need the spotlight. The truth was enough. For the first time in 33 years, I didn't feel invisible because I didn't just expose them. I reminded the world what they tried to erase. If you think a woman's memory is more powerful than any machine, write "remember" in the comments. Let me know you're listening, that you understand what this really means. By Friday morning, Halverson Systems was a ghost ship. The sign still hung above the main doors, but nobody walked through them with pride anymore. The parking lot was half empty. The lobby silent. You could almost hear the echo of lies peeling off the walls. I watched it all on the morning news while I buttered my toast. The anchors didn't even try to hide their tone anymore. The scandal had become too big to tiptoe around. Massive fallout at Halverson Systems. Former CEO faces potential federal charges. Employees speak out about racism and retaliation. They played clips from Raina's coverage, images of Brent scowling behind sunglasses, Monica dodging cameras outside a luxury condo. I sipped my coffee and took it all in like it was my Sunday paper. But it wasn't just news now. It was history. Jamal called me that afternoon breathless. "Miss Mayfield, it's done. They're shutting down the Claire system." I paused. What? Recalled the whole project. Public pressure got too loud. Plus, Raina's latest article proved the AI was intentionally trained to suppress harassment data. They're calling it the most unethical deployment of corporate AI in history. I closed my eyes and exhaled. It wasn't just that they fired me. It was that they replaced me with a machine designed to bury people like me. And now that machine was going in the trash right where they thought I belonged. Good, I said. That thing never could run the front desk like I did anyway. But the real gut punch didn't come from the DOJ or the stock crash, or the lawsuits piling up like junk mail. It came from Raina's masterpiece, her fourth article, The Blueprint. How one black woman took down a corporate empire with a notebook and her memory. It wasn't just journalism. It was scripture. She wrote about my time in the building, my patience, my silence, my notebook. She described how I documented abuse in real time while they promoted the predators. She framed every entry I'd scribbled as a brick in the foundation of justice. Then came the kicker. She published an annotated list of 26 names. 26 women. Each one had filed a complaint that was buried. Each one left the company in silence. Some were interns. Others were senior analysts. All of them disappeared under the same cloud, discredited, disbelieved, deleted. Raina found 18 of them, interviewed 11. 5 of them agreed to go on the record. One said, Dolores was the only one who believed me. Now the world does too. Another said, she trained me. She saved me. And she never once asked for credit. I sat on my porch and read every word with my hand over my mouth. I didn't cry, not yet. But my heart felt like it was humming. Like something inside me had been asleep for years and had finally woken up. Later that night, Raina messaged me directly. Turn on Channel 9. So I did. There was a live congressional hearing. Topic: Corporate AI ethics and discrimination. They were citing my case, senators reading my name into the record, quoting my testimony, holding up a printed image of my notebook like it was evidence from a landmark case. I wasn't even watching TV anymore. I was watching impact. Real, national, generational impact. And Brent? Brent was now under federal investigation, fraud, civil rights violations, retaliation. His wife had already spoken to the feds. She gave them everything. Emails, receipts, calendars. She even handed over the burner phone he used to communicate with Monica. Monica was disgraced. The board cut ties. They issued a statement calling her a rogue executive. She responded by filing her own lawsuit, blaming Brent. They were both drowning now, clawing at each other to stay afloat. Raina called me the next day. There's one more thing, she said. There's going to be a documentary and a book deal. They want to use your name. They want you to narrate the intro. I shook my head gently. I'm not looking for fame, Raina. I know, she said. But your story is giving other women a spine. I went quiet because the truth is I never wanted any of this. Not the headlines, not the interviews, not the virality. All I ever wanted was for someone to look me in the eye and say, you were right. You were never invisible. You were never wrong. That night I visited Massey Hall. It's a women's career center on the South Side. They offer free resume coaching, tech classes, job placement for women of color. I'd volunteered there before, but now it felt different. When I walked in, there was a new plaque on the wall. The Dolores Mayfield Tech Empowerment Lab. I stood frozen. A group of young women were inside learning Python code, editing resumes, laughing together. Jamal stood at the front, smiling like he belonged there. One of the girls saw me in the doorway. She gasped. Wait, are you? I nodded. She walked up slowly like I was made of glass. You're the reason I know I belong here. I smiled. No, baby. You belong here because you're ready to take your place. I just cleared the path. She hugged me tight, warm, unapologetic. That night, I walked home under a quiet sky. My feet ached. My knees were stiff. But my back was straight. I didn't just bring down a company. I built something stronger in its place. And I wasn't done yet. I never imagined my name would be written into a congressional hearing. I didn't expect to see my face on a slideshow next to words like systemic bias, algorithmic discrimination, and landmark case. I was just trying to hold on to my job, trying to stay useful, trying not to disappear in a world that moves faster than memory. But here I was. Dolores Mayfield. The woman they tried to delete. The woman who wrote everything down. Strange, watching people say your name with reverence after spending decades being overlooked. Even stranger when they say it in headlines on panels in classrooms. I used to hand out muffins to interns. Now professors are assigning essays about me. I didn't ask for any of it. All I wanted was the truth to matter. And now it finally does. Brent Halverson is finished. The DOJ charged him with obstruction of justice, retaliation, and misuse of corporate funds to cover up sexual harassment. His wife divorced him, took half of everything, and started a nonprofit for survivors of workplace abuse. The AI system Claire was not only shut down, it became the centerpiece of a national debate. Tech companies are now required to submit their HR automation models for bias testing. Raina's article sparked a full legislative proposal called the Mayfield Disclosure Act. They say it might pass next session. And Monica tried to flip on Brent, claiming she was pressured into the cover-up, but Raina had emails, audio, time-stamped files. Monica's signature on NDA after NDA. She's banned from holding an executive position in any publicly traded company. Last I heard, she was living in South Florida, fighting civil suits and begging not to be subpoenaed again. I don't feel bad for her because when I cried in the janitor's closet, she laughed. When I trained her staff, she erased my name from every report. When I vanished, she celebrated. Now she's the one nobody sees. Funny how that works. Meanwhile, things have been quieter for me. Not peaceful, just quiet. I go to the community center every Tuesday. Jamal runs the tech boot camp now. We help women, mostly over 40, learn basic code, digital filing, online banking. Most of them say the same thing. I thought it was too late for me. And I always smile and say, baby, the system wants you to believe that, but the system is a liar. Sometimes I bring peach cobbler. Old habits die hard. The girls call me Miss D. They write my name in big loopy cursive on thank you cards. They send photos when they land their first job. Some of them cry the first time they're handed a laptop. I never thought I'd matter again. One of them told me. I just hugged her. Trust me, I whispered. I know exactly how that feels. My house feels warmer now, even though the weather hasn't changed. Maybe it's because people stop me at the grocery store. Maybe it's because every time I open my mailbox, there's a handwritten letter from someone saying, you reminded me to speak up. Or maybe it's because I'm finally seen. Not as a relic, not as a whisper, but as a woman who remembered, who watched, and who waited until the time was right. I wrote everything down because I was afraid of being forgotten. Turns out that notebook made me unforgettable. Raina's book is coming out next spring. She sent me the draft. The dedication page says, for Dolores Mayfield, who kept the truth alive when no one else would. I wept when I read it. Not because I wanted recognition, but because someone finally understood. We weren't just surviving. We were archiving. One of the most powerful moments happened last week. Raina invited me to speak at a panel on ethics and technology. I declined. I don't do microphones, but I did agree to attend and sit in the front row. Halfway through the discussion, a young woman stood up and said, do you all understand what Miss Mayfield really did? She didn't just tell her story. She dismantled a machine built to erase people like her. She didn't break the system. She revealed it. The room fell silent. Then they clapped. Not for me, for us. For every woman who took notes in the margins, who documented injustice with receipts instead of rage, who lived in silence long enough to explode in full voice. When I got home that night, I pulled out my old notebook. I flipped through every page. Jasmine, Anna, Lucia, Tasha, Harriet, all remembered. I added one final line at the very end. They tried to delete me, but I backed up the truth. That's the legacy I leave behind. Not a name on a building, not a face on a screen, just a quiet woman with a pen, a sharp eye, and the courage to write it all down until someone finally listened. Because I wasn't the problem. I was the proof. And now they can never erase me. But you know what they say about endings, sometimes they're just new beginnings wearing different clothes. 3 months after the congressional hearing, I got a phone call that changed everything again. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was sitting at my kitchen table with my second cup of coffee, reading thank you letters from women across the country who'd found their voices because I'd found mine. The phone rang and a young voice said, Miss Mayfield? My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm a professor at Georgetown Law School, and I need your help. I set down my coffee. What kind of help, baby? We're building a new program, she said. Corporate accountability through digital documentation. We want to teach people, especially women of color, how to protect themselves in the workplace. How to document. How to remember. How to fight back. She paused. We want to call it the Dolores Mayfield Institute for Workplace Justice. I was quiet for so long she thought the line went dead. Miss Mayfield? Are you there? I'm here, I said softly. But honey, I'm not a teacher. I'm just an old woman who took good notes. That's exactly why we need you, she said. You proved that the most powerful technology isn't artificial intelligence. It's human memory backed up by courage. I thought about Jasmine crying in 1991, about Lucia, silenced in 1998, about Ana Reyes, disappeared after her truth became inconvenient, about Tasha who quit rather than stay quiet. When do you want to start? I asked. The institute opened 6 months later in a renovated building, just blocks from the Supreme Court. We had 12 full-time staff, 3 attorneys, and a waiting list of companies wanting our training. But the real magic happened in the basement, a digital archive where we taught women to document their experiences safely, legally, and strategically. We called it the Memory Bank. Jamal designed the entire system, encrypted, secure, accessible only to the person who created each file. No administrator could delete entries. No algorithm could filter content based on keywords or emotion. Every voice preserved exactly as it was spoken. It's like your notebook, he told me on opening day, but one they can never take away. The first woman to use our training was Rebecca Martinez, a software engineer who'd been passed over for promotion 7 times, while watching men with half her experience climb past her. She came to us with 3 years of documented conversations, emails, and performance reviews that told a very different story than what HR had on file. I kept records because my mama told me to, she said during her intake interview. But I didn't know what to do with them. We taught her. 6 months later, her company settled for $2.7 million and promoted her to lead architect. The second was Keisha Washington, an accountant whose boss had been making increasingly aggressive comments about her appearance. She'd been documenting everything in voice memos on her phone. I heard about you on the news, she told me. Figured if a 66-year-old woman could take down a whole corporation, maybe I could handle one creepy supervisor. She could. Her company fired the supervisor and instituted mandatory, bias training for all management. Keisha got his job. By the end of our first year, we'd helped 43 women document and resolve workplace harassment cases, 37 settlements, 6 criminal charges, 0 women silenced. But the story that made me cry happened on a rainy Thursday in November. A young woman walked into our offices carrying a manila folder thick with papers. She was maybe 25, with tired eyes and hands that shook when she spoke. My name is Jasmine Rodriguez, she said. I worked at Pinnacle Financial. My supervisor has been inappropriate for months. I filed complaints, but they keep disappearing from the system. I looked up from my desk. Jasmine. She nodded. Baby, I said gently. There was another Jasmine. Long time ago. She came to me crying about her supervisor too. Her eyes widened. Are you? You're the woman from the news. The one who remembered, I finished. And honey, I'm going to remember you too. We spent 3 hours going through her documentation. Photos of inappropriate texts. Audio recordings of meetings where she was berated for not being a team player. Email threads where her male colleagues made jokes about her body. But the smoking gun was in her performance reviews. For 2 years she'd received excellent ratings. Then, the week after she rejected her supervisor's advances, her scores plummeted. Suddenly she was difficult to work with, and not management material. He's destroying my career because I won't sleep with him, she said, tears streaming down her face. And nobody believes me. I believe you, I said. And we're going to make sure everybody else does too. 3 months later, Pinnacle Financial paid Jasmine a settlement that would cover her law school tuition, and then some. Her supervisor was terminated and banned from working in financial services. The company overhauled their entire HR system and hired an outside firm to audit their complaint processes. But the most beautiful part happened 6 months after that. Jasmine called me on a Saturday morning, excitement bubbling in her voice. Miss Mayfield, I start at Georgetown Law next month. Dr. Chan offered me a research position at the institute. I want to help other women the way you helped me. I smiled into the phone. What's your first case going to be? There's a tech company in Seattle, she said. They've got an AI system that screens job applications. Somehow, it keeps rejecting qualified women and people of color. The company says it's a bug, but the pattern is too consistent. Sounds familiar, I said. That's what I thought. Dr. Chan says we might need someone with experience in AI discrimination cases. Someone who knows how these systems really work. You calling me out of retirement? I asked. I'm calling you back to work, she said. If you're ready. I looked around my quiet house at the thank you letters pinned to my refrigerator, at the photos from the Institute's opening day, at my old notebook sitting on the kitchen counter like a retired soldier. When do we start? I said. The Seattle case took 8 months to crack. The AI wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed. Programmed to flag applications with urban addresses, graduation dates from historically black colleges, and even linguistic patterns associated with non-native English speakers. We didn't just win. We established legal precedent. The Mayfield standard, they're calling it. Any AI system used in hiring, promotion, or disciplinary decisions must undergo bias testing and maintain transparent audit trails. But the real victory was watching Jasmine argue her first case in federal court. 26 years old, standing before a judge, citing my congressional testimony while presenting evidence she'd gathered and analyzed herself. The cycle wasn't just broken. It was reversed. The silenced had become the voices. The deleted had become the record keepers. The invisible had become impossible to ignore. After the Seattle ruling, I thought about retiring again. Really retiring this time. Maybe traveling, visiting my daughter in California, learning to paint like I'd always talked about. But then the letters started coming. Not just thank you notes anymore. Requests for help. A teacher in Alabama whose principal was doctoring test scores and blaming the results on her urban students. A nurse in Michigan whose supervisor was altering patient records to hide his mistakes. A factory worker in Ohio whose safety reports kept disappearing whenever she documented hazardous conditions. Each one started the same way. Dear Miss Mayfield, I heard about what you did. I've been keeping records too. I realized then that I hadn't just exposed one corrupt company or taken down one predatory CEO. I had given women permission to remember, to document, to trust their own experiences even when the world told them they were wrong. The notebook wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to all of us. So I didn't retire. Instead, I started traveling. Not for vacation but for validation. City by city, town by town, sitting in community centers and church basements and library meeting rooms, teaching women what I'd learned in 33 years of invisible observation. How to document conversations without seeming confrontational. How to save emails and text messages safely. How to spot patterns of discrimination and retaliation. How to build cases that couldn't be dismissed or deleted. But most importantly, how to trust themselves. How to believe their own memories when everyone else was telling them to forget. Your experience is evidence, I told them. Your voice is testimony. And your memory is the one technology they can't hack, can't delete, can't replace with a machine. In each city, I met women who reminded me of myself. Quiet women who saw everything. Women who'd been trained to smile through discomfort and keep their observations to themselves. Women who'd been taught that their worth was measured by how little trouble they caused. I told them what I wish someone had told me decades ago. Baby, you're not the trouble. You're the solution. 5 years later, the Institute has expanded to 12 locations. We've helped over 300 women document and resolve workplace harassment, discrimination, and retaliation cases. Our success rate is 94%. But the number I'm most proud of is this: 0. That's how many women who've gone through our program have been successfully silenced afterward. Once you learn to document your truth, once you understand the power of your own memory, nobody can make you disappear. Raina's book became a bestseller. The documentary won an Emmy. The Mayfield Disclosure Act passed with bipartisan support. Jamal now runs the Institute's technology division and has testified before Congress twice about algorithmic bias. Harriet moved to D.C. to be closer to the work. At 73, she's busier than she's ever been, training HR professionals in trauma-informed complaint processing. And me? I'm 71 now. My knees hurt more than they used to, and I need reading glasses for the fine print. But my memory is still sharp as a blade, and my notebook, now notebooks plural, are still the most powerful weapons I own. Last week, I got a letter that made me understand why none of this was ever really about me. Dear Miss Mayfield, it read. My name is Jasmine Williams. I'm 16 years old, and I just read about you in my civics class. My teacher assigned us to write about someone who changed the world through documentation and truth-telling. I picked you. She went on to tell me about a situation at her part-time job. A manager who made inappropriate comments, who gave better hours to girls who played along, who created an environment where speaking up meant losing income her family needed. I remembered what you said in the documentary, she wrote. That staying quiet doesn't keep you safe, it just keeps you invisible. So I started writing everything down. Dates, times, witnesses, exact words. Just like you taught women to do. Last month, I filed a complaint with corporate headquarters. I included my documentation, 3 months of detailed records. They fired him the next week. The district manager called to thank me for speaking up. She said other girls had complained before, but never with this level of detail. I wanted you to know that your notebook inspired my notebook. And now I'm teaching my friends to keep records too. Because if a 16-year-old girl can document her way to justice, anybody can. The letter was signed with a heart and a postscript. P.S. I'm applying to Georgetown next year. Pre-law. Dr. Chun says there's always room for women who know how to remember. I put the letter down and looked out my window at the cherry tree I planted the year after the Halverson case broke. It was blooming again. Pink petals drifting onto the sidewalk like confetti. They tried to delete me, but I backed up the truth. And now that truth has grown roots, spread seeds, bloomed into something bigger than one woman's revenge. It's become a revolution. A quiet revolution, fought with pens instead of swords, memory instead of machines, truth instead of silence. And the most beautiful part? It's just beginning. Because you can replace a person with an algorithm. You can delete files from a computer. You can bury complaints in bureaucracy and gaslight victims into questioning their own experiences. But you cannot erase the truth when it lives in multiple minds, when it's written in multiple hands, when it's spoken with multiple voices that refuse to be silenced. That's the lesson they never learned. We're not just individuals they can isolate and eliminate. We're a network, a community, a sisterhood of women who remember everything and forget nothing. And we're not going anywhere. If this story means something to you, if you've ever been made to feel invisible or told your experience doesn't matter, write, I remember in the comments. Let me know that you're out there, that you're listening, that you understand what it really means to document your truth and trust your voice. Because your story matters. Your memory matters. Your voice matters. And just like they learned with me, we're a lot harder to delete than they think.